Hello everyone, I'm back again, another creative patching, this time with the MultiMod. I have been so excited for this module. I've wanted something like this for at least a decade, I think. Something that takes an input and makes 8 kind of correlated copies that are slightly different. It's fantastic. But let's start off with our first patch, which by all accounts is very, very basic. We're not processing any input. We're using the MultiMod in its LFO mode. I've chosen the purple shape, which is a sine wave. Full phase offset to all the outputs, and some spread adjusted to taste, and you'll see we can modulate that to change up the sound. And modulating all these wonderful aspects of these modules. The sound source is actually a basic sawtooth into the QPOS, and the MultiMod's modulation turns that filtered sawtooth into all of this. And we do that with just a few choice selections in what we're modulating. I really love the amount of animation you can do with QPOS, and we're using 4, I think, here, right? Frequency, resonance, and both radiate controls. So right there, half of the MultiMod is just modulating the QPOS. For the other half, we're going to both the filter, 2 individual outputs to each left and right filter of our 2 brushas here. One output is multed, and we're adjusting the time of the 2 brushas very, very slightly in opposite directions with the same voltage. And last but not least, modulating the mix of the mimeophone to kind of kick in some more ambience and repeats. And what's really fun about this is you've got this going, great, nice, smooth, ambient soundscape. But once you start to modulate the time and spread controls, this evolving pattern evolves even more. And by using the lower outputs more towards the delay, as we turn spread more clockwise, we're going to get more of this destabilized ambience and more pitching. By turning more counterclockwise, we're going to get more filter motion, because most of the top outputs are doing the filter. Not all, but most. We'll get more filter modulation and less of the ambient delay brush modulation. So while the details of the MultiMod are very basic, just in LFO mode, choosing which outputs to patch to which sonic aspects of your system become important and fun to discover. All right, let's switch to processing some input. All right, in this patch, we're playing with a concept that I've been fascinated with for a very long time. One of the main reasons I've been so excited about the MultiMod. We're processing a single input. The output of the pressure point is going into the MultiMod and creating 8 kind of delayed, sloppy copies of that input. The idea being one articulation that I could smear around a system and create lots of dynamic movement from just one input. Something like you could do with a physical instrument. A simple articulation can have a big dynamic effect. And it's extra fun with the MultiMod because we can also hold that captured input and then play with it and smear it some more. So I'm using the purple mode again here. That is the wow and flutter mode, when you're processing an external input. So it's kind of reading through the buffer, you will. Each of the outputs is reading from that buffer in kind of a sine wave shape. So as it crests, it kind of warbles, and it's going to be the least accurate representation of what goes in, which is exactly what I want. Again, careful choosing of the outputs to what we're modulating. Right now, some of the faster stuff is modulating Brucia, a little bit to the filter. There's a little bit of timbral modulation to spectrophone. They come into the two Optimixes. That goes into QPOS, Brucia. A little bit of mix on the mimeophone, but no modulation there. So just a little bit of articulation. Some aspects will get brighter, some will get squelchier, some will get less noisy. And right now the time is down really low, so there's very little delay between my input into the MultiMod and its smearing and spreading of voltages throughout the system. So let's capture something here with the hold knob button. Once it lights up, now that buffer is held. All that articulation I did is captured and stuck in there. And now I can increase the time. Take that little chunk and smear it out even more in time. And if we want to go back, we can simply unhold. That data in there will kind of slowly decay out. Go back to no voltage. Now, with time up, it's going to act more like a lag or a delay from my input. So now I have to learn to play with that a little bit more. Kind of putting something into the future. Let's play with the spread. Flip these modulated outputs around. Bring it back down. And for our final patch, we're processing audio. By very popular demand, I decided to give this a try. It's pretty wild and wacky, and it creates some sounds that I've never created in the modular before. So what we're doing here is we're taking the sine wave out, spectrophone, into the MultiMod in. I had to find a way to mix all 8 of these outputs. 4 channels of Optimix, 2 aux ins. The Optimixes go into the X-Pan, the final 2 outputs of the MultiMod into the X-Pan, stereo out into QPOS, which is really just there to kind of clean up some of this high end, because it gets pretty loud, and into mimeophone. Right now you're listening to all the outputs, locked dead center, no spread. Listen to the fun things that happen. Time is down pretty short. I find this also works better when it's tempo synced for some reason. I don't know. Some things you don't always need to think about. But you can hear some of this delay as you change frequency of the input. And that's where some of the magic starts to happen. And just to wrap up the insanity and play you out, let's take a clocked sequence. Patch that right into the pitch. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Hope this brings you some inspiration.